Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here, and welcome to another sculpting video. If you are new here, I am a self-taught sculptor. I sculpt pretty much everything out of polymer clay, and in today's video, we're making a witch. So basically, we're continuing our Halloween theme that we have going on here, and I thought a classic Wicked Witch would make the perfect addition. So sit back, relax, maybe hit subscribe, and let's get this crystal ball rolling. Step 1, armature. I'm just going to shape out the witch's shoulders and torso from this 12 gauge aluminum wire, and then cut the end with my brand new wire cutters, and then twist the ends together because she will be wearing a dress, so she doesn't need separate legs. Then I'm going to start the bottom of her dress with some aluminum foil and poke in that torso armature and shape the foil around it. And as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. And then there you saw me measure out the arms, attach them with some masking tape, and now we're going to bulk out the torso and hip area. And then just to hold that foil in place for the torso, I am securing it with some masking tape. Once the armature is looking pretty good, we're going to cover the entire thing in clay. I'm using Super Sculpey Original. And to get these nice thin sheets, I ran the clay through my pasta maker on the thickest setting. And then as we're adding the clay, we're just going to go back and make sure everything's nice and smooth before we add the details. Alright, the whole thing is covered. Looks good. Time to add the wrinkles and folds at the bottom of her dress. To do this, I'm just rolling out snakes of clay that taper at one end, and I'm adding it to the figurine like so, and then blending the edges in with everything else. And I'm going to repeat this process until the entire thing is covered in nice fabric-y looking folds. And then for areas that I can't reach with my finger, I'm just going to use my spoon tool to help me blend them out. Alright, once the base folds are looking pretty good, we're just going to add another piece of fabric to her waist just to give the dress a little bit more dimension. So I'm just adding this nice thin snake of clay around the edge and blending the top in with the top part of her dress. And this makes it look like there is a separate piece of fabric. Then I thought I was going to be fancy and use these little tiny tweezers to make fringe on the bottom of this, but those didn't work very well. So I'm going to just use my Explorer tool instead. Then once the bottom of that piece is done, we're just going to go in and add some more folds and wrinkles. Then before I detail the top of the dress, I'm just going to add her neck. This is just a bamboo skewer that I poked in, and I'm adding clay around it like this. Now for the next step, to finish off the dress, I'm just going to add this little band of fabric around her waist. And this is just a very thin sheet of clay that I ran through my pasta maker on the 3 setting. I wrinkled it a little bit and attached it. Now the dress still looks like it needs something, so I'm going to add this nice long piece of clay, make it look like that band around her waist is sort of tied and this is the excess that is falling down the front. It's super easy and super effective. Alright, once the dress is looking pretty good, let's go over here and make the head. I just shaped out the core of the head from aluminum foil, and I'm covering this in clay. And then I add a bamboo skewer to the back just so I can hold on to that when I'm putting the details on the face. Now for the first set of details, I'm going to use my large ball stylus to press in her eye sockets, like so. Some real-time action. and then blend the edges in a little bit so they're not protruding as much. And then I'm going to take my medium ball stylus to further deepen the eye sockets and shape out the brow area and bridge of the nose a little bit. And then we're going to add her eyeballs. Then once the eyes are in, we're just going to go in with some very tiny snakes of clay to add some lower eyelids. Just putting it into place with my finger and then shaping them out with my spoon tool. Then once those bottom lids are on, we're just going to go in and make her brow bones stick out a little bit more. So I'm just adding some little pieces of clay like that and blending them in with my spoon tool as well. And she's a bad witch, so she's got to look kind of angry, in my opinion at least. Then once the brow area is at a good point, we're just going to press in the area around her mouth with our spoon tool. Again, I'm using my spoon tool for a lot of things here. And then after that, we're just going to make her cheekbones a little bit larger and shape everything out to give her a sort of gaunt appearance. Now, I wasn't going to give her upper eyelids, but I changed my mind. We're going to give her those now. Just being very gentle not to screw up all the work I already put in. And it worked out pretty well. Now those mouth creases were a little too high, so we're just going to lower them a little bit. So I just added some clay to fill in that area and shaped it out again. Now I'm going to use my Explorer tool to press out her mouth. Just going to have a nice creepy grin. Once the mouth area is looking pretty good, I must have said that 20 times and it hasn't even been 10 minutes yet, we're going to go in and give her a chin. But not one that's that big. Make it a little smaller. Come on, calm down. There we go, that's better. Now let's blend everything together. And I'm not even going to say it, you can think it in your head. Now it's time for her nose. I'm going to give her a long, pointy witch nose. Bet you didn't see that coming. So I just shaped it out in my fingers, I'm adding it to her face, and then I'm going to blend it in with my spoon tool. Then once the nose is on and blended, we are just going to go in with a couple different tools to add some more details, like wrinkles and whatnot. And here's some satisfying nostril action. It's been a while, I had to bring it back. Now here's a little tooth for her. And some warts, one on her chin and one on her nose. And this is really starting to look like a very stereotypical witch, which I don't love, but you know what, at this point we're already this far, let's just keep going. Now it's time for her ears. If you'd like a full tutorial on how to make a tiny ear, I have one and you can click it above in the info card section. And it's one of my older tutorials, so whether you want to make an ear or not, you can just go check it out and see me be really awkward. Alright, I did the other ear off camera because why do you want to see me do that twice? Now we're just going to brush the entire surface with clay softener to remove fingerprints. And her head and her body are ready for their first bake. Then once they're baked and completely cooled down, this is what we got. Now I'm just going to shape her arms a little bit, and we're going to give her a sort of walking stick / scepter type thing. So I'm just going to shape out the armature for that with some 12 gauge aluminum wire, and then cover that in Sculpting Firm. And the reason I'm using Sculpey Firm instead of just original Super Sculpey is because it's a little easier to work with for something like this. And then I am not giving her a broom because, like I mentioned earlier, she's stereotypical enough as it is. Let's do something different. So for her walking stick, I want it to look like a natural organic branch that has a skull on top of it. So as you can see there's the branch part. Now let's start the skull. Now let's poke in the eyes with my medium ball stylus. And then let's make it angry looking. Why not? And then let's exaggerate that brow bone. Now let's add the nose holes and detail the teeth. Alright, once that skull is done, we're going to stick it on and then detail a nice wood grain on the branch. And then for another level of detail, we're just going to add a, piece of fabric wrapped around the top, because why not? And the cane thing is done. Now it's time to add some clay to her arms. Then once the arm clay is on, we're just going to give her some long sleeves. I believe these are called trumpet sleeves per my Google search earlier. So yeah, we're giving her some trumpet sleeves and then adding some folds and wrinkles to those. After finishing the other arm off camera, I'm just going to put them into position, and I decided that I want her to be holding her staff like she's about to hit someone over the head with it, instead of just having it in her hand on the ground. Now for the cape. As you can probably tell from the black and white filter on these clips, this was not a fun process. Nope. Yeah, nope. No. Alright, after spending about an hour trying to figure out what shape to make the cape, I finally did it. This is gonna kind of look like a shawl, which I like, and I'm just adding some folds and wrinkles down the back, and then I also do this on the other side, but I'm very careful not to smash all the work I just did. Looks pretty good. Alright, now we're just going to tatter the edges a little bit, and then give it a fabric texture by rolling this tool all over the surface. Now I'm not sure why, but after making the cape I decided to attach her head and her hair. It's fine, but I probably should put the cape on before I put her head on, so that's going to make me have to take her head off down the road. But whatever, we're going to keep going here. I just added the hair that I textured with my Explorer tool, like so, behind her ears. And then for two pieces in front of her ears, I added a piece of floral wire just to reinforce them a little bit so they're not super fragile. And she looks like she's got some male pattern baldness going on here, but that's okay because the hat's going to cover it. Not bad. Let's keep going. Now I'm just going to attach her staff, scepter, cane thing into her hands by rolling the excess wire around it, and that was pretty easy. Now we're going to make her hands. Okay, we're just going to call the thing a walking stick from now on. After wrapping her hand around the walking stick, I'm just adding some little balls of clay to make her knuckles bigger. And this little step made a huge difference, and I'm really glad that I took the extra time to do it. Now we're going to do the same thing with her other hand. I liked this so much that I left all the footage in for this as well. Now we're just going to use a little snake of clay to create the edge of her sleeve, blend that in. And there we go, she's ready to beat you up with her walking stick. Now it's time to add that cape after taking her head off. And this went on fairly easily. And I did go back and add some Bacon Bond to certain areas, like right here, just to secure it a little bit more. Now let's put her head back on. And then I rolled over the top of her cape just because I thought it would look a little bit better. Now we're going to make her hat. This is just a circle I cut out that I flattened the edges to, and then I'm adding it to her head, like so. And then we are shaping out the top part from aluminum foil and covering that in clay. I did have to trim this quite a bit because it was a little obnoxious looking. And then this is the second time I'm adding it. You can kind of tell here. And I'm just blending it in, like so. And then as another added detail, I am just giving her a little band of fabric around her hat and finishing that off. Just adding some more details, giving it that nice fabric texture. And she's ready for her final bake. Not really, we're going to put a couple notches in her hat. And then a couple more details. And now she's ready for her final bake. Then once she's baked and completely cooled down, because why would you want to do this when it would burn your hand, we're going to start painting. I'm just going to coat all of her clothing with some Folk Art Pure Black. All of the paints that I'm using in this video are Folk Art acrylic paints. How I love the full coverage of this black. Alright, after adding the black and drying it with a blow dryer, I'm just going in with some very dark blue. This is just to add a little more dimension to the black, and then I'm going to follow this with some dark purple. Then once my black, purple, and blue base colors are on, we're just going to dry brush some light gray on top of everything. And then some dark brown just to differentiate the different pieces of fabric that she's got on her, so it's all just not one big blob of black. Then we're going to go in with some watered down black, a wash, into all of the nooks and crannies everywhere, just to really sharpen everything. Now we're really going to go crazy and add some watered down purple and blue to various different areas on the piece, just to really give it some more dimension. But then we're just going to paint this little piece of fabric brown first, and then add some blue to it. Once her clothing's done, we're just going to go in and paint that walking stick, starting with this nice desaturated dark brown that I made by mixing warm white, brown, and pure black. Then we're going to paint the fabric on the walking stick using some dove gray. And then we're going to dry brush some light brown on the wooden part of the walking stick to bring out the detail, and then start painting the skull. Now it's time for her skin. We're just gonna make her green, but not that green. So I dull it out with some brown and pure black. Much better. Then once the base green is dry, we're going to go into all of the recessed areas with some dark green that is watered down, a dark green wash, and then we are going to dry brush some lighter green to bring out all of the details in her skin. Now we're going to paint the whites of her eyes with the color Lemonade. And then while her eyes are drying, we're going to paint her hair. We're going to make it a pretty light medium gray. Then we're going to go in with a very tiny ball stylus to create the irises. And then I mixed some lemonade with brown to create this nice color for her tooth. Then we're going to darken some areas. And she's done! Our Wicked Witch is complete. Let me know what you think in the comments. And then if you use any of the tips and techniques that I use in this video on your own projects, share them to Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and tag me at aceofclay or hashtag aceofclay on the post so I can check them out. And that's a wrap. I really hope you like our witch and you enjoyed watching me make her. Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want more content from me, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at aceofclay, and then I'll see you in the next video.